Hi everybody, welcome back to my video podcast. Great to see you back here. I hope you're enjoying my videos. I'm getting a lot of comments. Keep sending them in. It's great to hear from you, and it's also great to hear what you want me to include in these podcasts, because there's a great lot of things that I can be speaking about. Today I'm going to talk about what to think about when it comes to age versus becoming a pilot. Am I too old when I'm 35 years old and I want to become a pilot? Or am I too old when I'm 25 or 55? How am I supposed to think about this? Well, first of all, you're never too old. If you want to become a private pilot, for example, if you just love flying, you can do that well up until you're 65. The only limitations would be medical ones. So just check with your AME, your aeromedical examiner. And that goes for all of you as well who has been asking me about medical issues. I'm not a doctor, so you have to speak to the closest AME, aeromedical examiner. You can just Google it, and there will be one in every city pretty much around the world. So just Google that, call them, and ask any issues you might have before you start your training. All right. So, what about if I want to become a commercial pilot? Well, it kind of goes the same there. You can start your training to become a commercial pilot at pretty much any age. There are a couple of things to think about though. First of all, the reason that so many people start off early to do their training and to become commercial pilots is they're really keen. Most people, they have this as a boyhood dream and they start really early as soon as they can because of this. It is not necessary to start your training when you're 20. It is perfectly okay, and even it can even be very good to do a bit of university, to get a university degree first. There are actually a couple of flag carriers and airlines around the world, especially the American ones, that requires you to have some kind of university diploma before you can enter into employment with them. So to do a university degree is only good. Don't worry about the time aspect. That's one thing. The second thing is, you will not get a rock star salary when you get your first job. Okay. First of all, to do your training will take between 1.5 to 2 years if you're doing it the ab initio way. If you're doing it the modular way, it might take longer than that. And then you will need to gather some experience, or if you're really lucky, you manage to get into one of the cadet programs that some of the low-cost carriers have, and the flag carriers as well. British Airways has a cadet program, Ryanair has a cadet program. But if you're really shit hot, then you manage to get through your training in 1.5 years, and then you start to get into cadet training directly after that. You're looking at training for a minimum, I would say, 2.5 years. Just to get into the business, and in most cases it takes far longer than that. So I would say in your calculations, calculate on about 4 years from when you start your training until you have your first job. Okay. Then when you get your first job, you'll find out that the salary in the beginning is not very high. So you have to calculate in the fact that you have paid quite a lot of money for your training, and then you might not get that much money in the beginning. So this can be hard if you have a family, for example. So if you're thinking about doing this as a family man, at least try to minimize the cost of your training, so that you don't end up in a situation where you have spent a lot of money on your training, you don't get a really high salary, and your family suffers from it, because that can be really bad. Another aspect of it is that once you do get your first job, it's very likely that you are going to have to move to where that job is. This is not the job you want to start if you have to live at home with your mama. Okay, it just doesn't work. You are more than likely have to move within the network of the airline that you have applied to and gotten into, and that might mean move to a different country. In Europe, you can be working all over Europe. In America, it's a slightly different system, which I'm not completely familiar with, but you'll be sure to have to move to whatever hub that your company is operating from there as well. Which is also hard if you're a family man. So you're starting to see a little bit of a pattern here. That's two things, so salary and the fact that you're gonna have to move places, okay? When it comes to bases, what will happen most likely is that since you're starting off as a first officer, you will be put to whatever base that you're needed in. And then as you gain experience and you gain seniority within a company, you will be able to move base. Okay, so you will be able to apply for a base maybe closer to home and family, which would be great until you upgrade. When you upgrade to become a captain, it will be the same thing again, more or less. As in, there will be a need for a captain in one base, and you will be offered a command position in that base, which might mean that you have to move again. Once you have secured your command position though, especially if you're working within my airline, you tend to be fairly secure in the base you have. Unless there is a closure of the base or anything, once you have a command position somewhere, you are unlikely to be moved from there. So that means that in order for you to really know where you're going to live, it might take 3 years from when you start your training, and then another at least 3.5 years from when you start your career until you have your command. So we're looking here at around 6.5 to 7 years from when you start your training until you have a base where you know that you can kind of put your tent down and actually live. So when I get this question about am I too old when I'm 35, the answer to that is no. It's fine as long as you're aware of this, and as long as you're aware that it's not going to be a dance on roses in the beginning. It's going to take a while until you can settle down, and if you have a family, the family has to be aware of the fact that you will likely move around a little bit the first 3.5-4 years or so until you get your final command position, and that might not be exactly where you want it to. So you have to be a bit flexible, quite a lot flexible in this occupation. I hope that answers some of your questions anyway. If you don't, please keep sending me your questions. And also, I'm trying to build a bit of support for this channel, so feel free to promote me on Instagram or on Twitter or on Facebook. If you like my videos, just tell your friends out there, and tell them also that I'll be happy to speak about pretty much whatever they want me to speak about. So send in questions, and please put a good word in for me on whatever social media platform that you can imagine. Thank you.